Hey there, everyone. Thanks for staying with us here on CBS News. We want to get you now to the White House, where you see President Biden is just about to begin delivering remarks on his administration's fight against crime. We're wondering if he'll mention anything about the outgoing Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Let's listen.
Law enforcement and community leaders here today who have helped bring down violent crime rates in their cities to historic lows. That's right. We're about to talk about what's going to happen now. You know, you just heard from the chief, and the salute these cities are making historic progress here. Last year, the United States had one of the lowest rates of all violent crimes in more than 50 years. Murder, rape, aggravated assault, robbery all dropped sharply, along with burglary, property crime, and theft. And it matters. As president, public safety and crime reduction is a top priority for my administration and for me, and it has been for a long time, back when I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. You know, since day one, my administration has been working with law enforcement, mayors, and community leaders to do what we know works to keep people and communities safe. As was referenced, during the pandemic, states and cities saw violent crime rising, and their budgets were strained as they faced deep cuts in law enforcement and public safety. But we stepped up, thanks to my American Rescue Plan, which I might note not a single person on the other team voted for. We provided $350 billion that was available to deal with these issues. You know, and the fact is that we find ourselves, we could use this money to keep law enforcement on the beat, communities safe from violence. We invested $15 billion to make their communities safer, and we added billions more in grants to help. The Justice Department invested in law enforcement and community violence interruption programs. Because the American Rescue Plan, we have the largest federal investment in fighting crime and preventing violent crime at any time in our history, and that's a big deal. You know, we know being in law enforcement is harder than ever, but and we expect you to be everything to everybody. That's why we've invested in more crisis responders who work alongside police officers, as Chief said, mental health and social workers who respond to nonviolent crimes as well. More investment in recruiting, retaining, and training officers. More investments in violent prevention to get guns off the street. And on top of that, we're hiring more U.S. attorneys, recruiting more U.S. Marshals, and investing more in technology and training to clear the court backlog, solve murders, and to deal with apprehending violent fugitives. And we're also working hard to ensure bonds of trust between officers and the people you all serve. My budget calls for more officers in the street, trained in community policing, walking the beat, working hard hand in hand with community leaders and partners and to gain public trust and advance public safety. The chiefs in this room know that when their communities trust the police, we can solve a hell of a lot more crimes a hell of a lot faster. That's why I signed the historic executive order to advance executive and accountable community policing, and it's very effective so far. You know, and I'm going to continue to call on Congress to pass the George Floyd Policing and Justice, the Justice and Policing Act, so we can make police reform the law of the land. We also made historic investments in proven strategies to interrupt and prevent crime and violence in the first place. These programs use trusted messengers, including people who are in the neighborhood, people who have been incarcerated and released now, people who have been through it, people who know what they're talking about. And we have a track record of reducing violent crime as a consequence of that by 30 to 60% where those programs exist. And finally, my plan goes after the scourge of gun violence in America. I've taken more executive actions to stop the flow of illegal guns than any other administration in history. And we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years. And we're going to finish the job. We're going to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines next time around because it has to be done. I formed the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and I thank Vice President Harris for overseeing this important effort. Let me close with this. Our plan's working, but we still have much more to do, as everyone at this table knows. And that's why we're here today. My administration is going to choose progress over politics, and communities across the country are safer as a result of that policy. There is no greater responsibility than to ensure the safety of families, children, communities, and our nation. And with that, I want to turn this over to Neera Tanden, my domestic policy advisor, and we'll get this discussion going, okay? Thank you.
All right, well, we've been watching remarks from President Biden on his efforts to fight crime. Biden says last year the United States had lower violent crime rates than we've had in 50 years, and he discussed how his administration has stepped up to provide $350 billion to help deal with reducing crime and making communities safer, saying at one point that it is harder than ever to be in law enforcement because they are expected to be everything to everyone.
And we just heard their reporters trying to shout some questions to the president, which he does not appear to be answering. He did not mention the announcement from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell that he'll be wrapping things up come November. But we will continue to listen in to what the president may be saying on that point and bring you updates as they become available.
Well, we want to take you now over to the Johnson Space Center in Houston. NASA and Intuitive Machine officials are discussing the Odysseus moon lander and its current situation. Let's listen.
So very excited about that. What we've done in the process of this mission, though, is we've fundamentally changed the economics of landing on the moon.